These days, there's a lot of talk about the left-wing bias in the mainstream media and the censorship of conservatives on social media platforms. And understandably so, but the origins of social media censorship currently being executed by major tech platforms didn't start with them. It started somewhere else, which is why in this video we'll discuss the most left-wing industry in the world and why it matters, because the origins of social media censorship originated here. It's an industry that's all around us. It touches every one of us. We're all familiar with it, even if we don't know it. Advertising.
Bud Light Party here to discuss equal pay.
Women don't get paid as much as men, and that is wrong.
And we have to pay more for the same stuff.
What?
Yeah, cars.
What?
Dry cleaning.
What?
Shampoo.
What? You pay more but get paid less? That is double wrong.
Bud Light proudly supports equal pay. That's why Bud Light costs the same no matter if you're a dude or a lady.
The advertising industry is the most radically left-wing industry in the world. It plays perfectly into the left's expertise in propaganda, lies, deception, manipulation, and the like.
Do I tell her that her grandpa's worth more than her grandma? Do I tell her that despite her education, her drive, her skills, her intelligence, she will automatically be valued as less than every man she ever meets?
In fact, advertising has long been a leftist tool because big government proponents have a particular interest in mass manipulation, since the early days of communist propaganda to Nazi propaganda and now the modern left, but in this case, the promulgation of identity politics.
You'll demand fair and equal pay. Change starts now.
The left takes every opportunity to promote victimhood, inequality, or really inequity as rallying cries for identity politics, perfect for the brand image the advertiser is trying to portray. Our brand is good, so buying our product or service makes you good, or at the very least, it serves as a signal that you support good. Our brand supports the liberation of insert victim group here from X type of oppression. It's repeated, it's deliberate, and in some instances, it works.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
Hair.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl.
Whether it's women and the lie of female oppression via the patriarchy, or whether it's fake racism, anti-Americanism, gays and transgenders, it is advertising that is critical in pushing the narrative, and it's far more effective than it's given credit for. It's only very recently that some of this has garnered attention, but the most successful forms of indoctrination attempts are those that go unnoticed.
Mom, I want this one.
But honey, these don't belong together.
It doesn't matter if it's true. This is advertising, baby. If the mainstream media and supposedly objective news outlets push the same lies, don't expect advertising to pay any attention to truth or accuracy. Take this spot, which blatantly implies that it is society and nothing with differences in interests in men versus women that is responsible for disparities in STEM.
Sam, honey, you don't want to mess with that. Let's put him down.
This project has gotten out of control.
Whoa, hey, careful with that. Why don't you hand that to your brother?
As if fathers around the country are actively preventing their daughters from going into scientific or mathematic fields.
Our words can have a huge impact. Isn't it time we told her she's pretty brilliant too? Encourage her love of science and technology and inspire her to change the world.
When did commercials become Cuck-mercials? I don't know who's writing these things, but they seem to be this sort of mamby-pamby, flaky things that either just subjugate men or have absolutely no purpose. There's a commercial out now called Love Has No Labels where they blow our minds. Check this out. Did you know that there's other kind of relationships besides a cis man and a cis woman? They're all human beings with skeletons. Did you know? What? Look at these people. What? That must be a normal relationship, right? Anyway, this plays out. Look how confused they all are. This plays out. She pokes her head around the corner. And then, I know you're expecting a man, but women have bones too, you know? Ah! Okay, that's enough of that. That ad then goes on to show you that a Chinese man can be in a relationship with a black woman. It shows a child with Down syndrome and her sister hugging each other. Love has no labels. Telling me that someone who has Down syndrome can have a sibling that loves them. Thanks very much for that wake-up call. I had no idea.
Or this one, which advocates anger for women because women make less than men, presumably because of injustice in the patriarchy or something like that. This ad goes so far as to suggest women should actually deserve more pay because they need more money to live a materialistic and lavish lifestyle, which is odd because none of those things make you more feminine, because femininity is a social construct, according to the left. So by their own logic, you don't need these things anyways, but that requires the type of thinking that they know their audience will never actually do. And who could forget the Super Bowl spots, which deliberately attacked immigration? Like this ridiculously long and ridiculously unrealistic spot that masks a brutal illegal immigration industry where 80% of women are coming through illegally, are raped, or beer spots playing during the Super Bowl, also going after immigration, never explaining that the founder of Anheuser-Busch came here legally, not illegally, which is exactly the type of misleading storyline via omission of relevant facts that is par for the course for Democrats. Or the generic brand ad that shows lots of colors and genders and faces and pushes some trendy hashtag that they hope gives their brand some street cred with liberal fascists who see color everywhere they go. Or just look at all the auto commercials or fuel companies. How much of their pitch is about low emissions to please the environmentalist crowd? The same messaging, the same story, the same strategy over and over and over again.
You are unique. You are different. You are special, free from the restraints of natural hair color. Your hair is totally pink. You love peace. Love it. Which is why you keep having peace parties on the street, where you express yourselves with colorful signs. We know you care about causes. Us too. That's why we made our 100% plastic products 10% smaller that one time. And gender. Is it difficult for us to understand this one? We made our brand rainbow-colored for Pride Week. What can we say? We're bold like that. Hashtag bold like that.
But who cares? Nobody likes ads anyway. Why does it even matter that advertising is the most radically left-wing industry on the planet? Don't overlook the ad business, because the origins of social media censorship lies with them. But in order to understand how the censorship movement started, you first have to understand the personalities of the marketing industry. Advertising, or marketing, is an industry echo chamber of liberal thought sealed as tight as it gets. An industry primarily based in large urban areas like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and other major cities that are democratic strongholds. An industry with an infatuation with the newest, the latest, the trendiest, and the 6-second attention span that enables them to consume a vast amount of information without actually knowing any of it, because the headline is all you really need to read anyways. An industry that suffers from the well-known correlation that those who work in persuasive job roles are much more susceptible to groupthink. An industry with ad agency CEOs who issue memos regarding Trump's immigration ban, despite it not being an immigration ban at all. An industry that holds conferences hosting Democratic politicians like Barack Obama. It's an industry that plays into the imaginations of us all, filled with niceties about what's possible and the future. Practicality is boring, imagination fun. This type of personality should expectedly gravitate to the utopian vision of socialists and communists everywhere. An industry ensconced in its own vault, whose only political knowledge is a false certainty that conservatives are racist, bigoted, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic bigots, and the only cure is to inundate them with endless awareness campaigns and social justice propaganda orchestrated by the geniuses within the ad business. An industry that pays no rewards for accuracy or truth, an industry that focuses solely on talk, rhetoric, ideas, persuasion, and appearances, is an industry of unparalleled acreage of fertile ground for leftist thought. In an industry with such value systems, the loudest virtue signalers permeate to the top. Like this moron, the chief marketing officer for a major advertising technology company who virtue signals on LinkedIn to all those companies looking to use International Women's Day as an opportunity to support women. Here's an idea. Don't use International Women's Day as a marketing ploy. Pay women equally, put women in charge of business functions like sales, marketing, product, engineering, and finance, put women in the C-suite, and put women on the board. P.S. It sadly needs to be said, this applies to all women, including women of color. Hashtag equality. Unsurprisingly, at the time this was written, the leadership team at this douchebag's company, Quantcast, let's take a look, 1 woman, 0 women of color. In a land where consistency mattered, he would resign and demand a woman to take his place. But of course he doesn't do that. In fairness, 6 months later I checked back with the same company and oh look, they've added a few people to the leadership team. Up to 3 women now. Of course none of the men have relinquished their roles, they've just added more titles to the leadership team. Much easier that way. Many media companies and advertisers do this too, like Netflix adding a chief diversity officer, adding fake positions with meaningless responsibilities so you never have to actually worry about performance. No risk of firing anyone. Just bring them on to Virtue Signal and help them boost their resume so some other company will come along and give them actual responsibilities on their dime. It's left-wing racist showmanship at its finest. But this guy isn't alone. Take this piece from a marketing industry brand consultant who pens an article complaining about the award winners for the ad industry in 2017. She cites an abundance of white people as award winners as an example of why advertising is basically back in the Jim Crow era. But in a radically left-wing industry, the insatiable career complainers like this girl are actually read, listened to, and applauded. She bemoans Ad Age, an industry publication so radically left, they published a propaganda piece on how the Quran is like the Christian Bible, and therefore Christianity and Islam are basically the same. She implies this publication is so racist, it might as well be owned by Fox News, you know, because they're so racist, calling it the old white boys club because they feel threatened by people of color. She said she took screenshots of the 2017 award winners and says from 50 people featured in the header there was 1 Asian woman. There's a problem though. If you go through the actual award winners, what do we have here? Here's some women of color. In fact, there's plenty of women of color. Some of the award photos have the entire company included on it, and you can't be more inclusive than that. They are completely and utterly insatiable. There is never an end to what they want. The agencies that she is condemning as being too white are the most left-wing types on the planet, which is why they win the awards. Go through each of these ad agencies who won these awards and look at what they make. It's the same virtue signaling, politically correct garbage, every single one of them. Take the ad agency of the year, Anomaly.
I'm Carrie Mulligan, and I'm proud to be part of Elle's feminism issue.
No. No. I think she wouldn't be able to do it. The one she would get lost in the sky. Yeah, because you have to go around the whole world.
What do you think she'd be best at?
Cooking.
How about number 2 on the list, McCann? How about number 3 on the list, RGA?
LifeWater believes art is as essential to life as water and transforms every one of our 20 million bottles into a canvas to support a wide range of emerging artists, including one of the most underrepresented groups in the art world, women. 51% of today's visual artists are women, but their work makes up less than 5% of permanent collections. So we launched LifeWater by turning our media spaces into a gallery for more women's art and rallying a call to bring more visibility to women's perspectives in the art world. To date, our Art by a Woman video has been viewed over 4.7 million times.
Women are 25% less likely to get a raise than men.
How about number 4, Droga 5?
Scavenging off bones of dead whales, relying on remnants that hunters have left behind for them I mean, for years, the polar bear has been this poster child of climate change. But this is different. They're being pushed to the brink of desperation, swimming sometimes hundreds of miles looking for any kind of food that they can find. As a journalist, my job is to present the real effects of global warming in the most truthful way possible. There have been those who continue to deny that climate change is happening. Nobody can deny these images. I'm Josh Hayner, photojournalist for the New York Times.
It's become more essential for journalists to provide accountability and transparency that we are seeing less and less of in government. I'm Mark Mazzetti, journalist for the New York Times.
The Great Schlep. The Great Schlep. You can look that up on YouTube.
Can that Great Schlep actually...
And who could forget the Great Schlep, a campaign tactic to try and get Obama elected, where know-nothing young people travel to Florida and harass their grandparents and lecture them about Barack Obama, because they're too stupid to know who to vote for.
You gotta understand who Barack Obama is.
Andrew Steinmetz came all the way from the University of Pennsylvania.
The project was part of GE's Balance the Equation initiative, their goal of hiring 20,000 women by 2020.
These agencies, the ads or propaganda they make is all the same. The advertising industry is so radically left, it's known around the industry that the few conservatives there actually are mostly in the closet. Although this stuff has been under the surface for years, it's gained a little more notoriety in recent years, largely due to how radical the left has become. So it's no surprise any speck of conservatism within ad agencies has to hide their beliefs to avoid backlash and potentially unemployment. One Republican executive said, "There's a script in the industry and you don't deviate from it, and the script is all blue." Digiday, which is an advertising publication, mentions that out of the many people they reached out to for this article, plenty, several who had actually donated publicly to Republican candidates, declined to comment. Agency spokespeople even declined to share whether they even knew of any Republicans in their particular agencies and said, "Not sure we have any Republicans that would want to come forward." Another agency executive said it's become politically incorrect to share political views, which really means conservative views. A C-level executive at another major agency who declined to be named said the fact that he's a Republican is always on my mind. It feels like there's a backlash. It's like you must not be open-minded if you're Republican. There's a stigma associated with it. The expectation in agency life is that you can talk about everything unless you're going to talk about being conservative, because being conservative means you are deemed intolerant. This exec rarely talks about political beliefs on social media. One reason is the potential backlash. The other is that he knows he'll be an example. I don't want to be identified as conservative or even religious. I don't want to be the flag bearer for conservatism in advertising. If you even admit to anything resembling Republican sympathies, you may get shamed. An employee was heard saying she believed Trump gave a better victory speech than Hillary Clinton, and people reacted with shock. If you came out as conservative, your talent pool would diminish. Your client pool might as well. Nobody wants to be the Republican in the room. The high-profile agency executives who are pro-Democrat also make the atmosphere difficult for conservatives. The head of Droga 5, David Droga, is an open Clinton supporter. Wendy Clark, the North American CEO of DDEB, took a sabbatical to work on the Clinton campaign. At another agency, the agency's DC office became a makeshift hotel, setting up places to sleep for staffers coming into the Women's March. While the march was considered only by leftists as nonpartisan, there were anti-Trump signs. The company also made a panic button to help immigrants call for help during raids. Since Trump, things have gotten much worse for Republican voters and ad agencies. One Republican agency executive who didn't want to be named said, "It's a strong backlash." The author admits it's emblematic of how severe the problem is that many Trump voters interviewed for this article don't want to be outed. "There is a sense of hatred emanating from colleagues that is hard to stomach," said one outed conservative. "It's an ironic thing. Agencies pride themselves on being open-minded to people over all ethnicities and sexual orientations and such, but on this particular point, diversity of political persuasion need not apply. They're doing the opposite of what they think they want. They're not being diverse or inclusive, they're being exclusive." Another executive said, "People now look at me like I'm evil. People in the media and entertainment are liberal. You can imagine how people think they have permission to say what they want to me." But while the agency leadership grapples with a crisis of identity, small groups of conservatives are springing up across the industry. One Trump voter said, "People who know her affiliations have come to her. They meet in secret to discuss issues and talk about things, in a scene that resembles the McCarthyism of the 1950s. An openly conservative agency executive said, "My personal opinion gets uncomfortable for people, and when people find out you don't think like them, it's like they want to explain to you why you should. I live through the political version of mansplaining every day. But who cares? Advertising is radically left-wing. Why does it matter? It matters matters because the censorship movement across social media actually started with advertising. Think about it. How does nearly every channel of communication make money? Television, mainstream news programs, print media, online media sites and blogs, they all survive via advertising. It matters because advertising is the water and oxygen for nearly all of our major systems of mass communication. And as much as we hear about the major tech platforms censoring and banning opinions that they don't like, the one thing that we don't often hear is how advertising is the arsonist that started this fire and continues to fan the flames. Don't believe me? Let's go back to the origins of this issue. Why have social media platforms started to censor conservatives? It started with complaints to YouTube by bored leftists who were triggered seeing ads for various advertisers on videos that they deemed hateful, using threats of harassment because their ads were running where leftist tyrants insisted that they shouldn't be. They justified this as saying that advertisers shouldn't be advertising on KKK videos and ISIS recruiting videos on YouTube. But anyone who has the ability to search on YouTube will find there actually aren't that many ISIS and KKK videos, and the ones that there are have hardly any traffic, certainly not enough to be monetized and profiting from ads.
There's a real censorship movement starting in YouTube, and it's directed against conservatives. And I'm getting worried that it's effective. I mean, we'll always find another way, but that still means I'm real annoyed by this. And there was a video a YouTuber named Ethan Klein made where he talked about this Wall Street Journal article that said, we need to censor YouTube because videos that are Nazi videos and ISIS recruiting videos and videos with the N-word in them, they have Coca-Cola being advertised and they have Starbucks being advertised. So these major brands, they don't want to be associated with ISIS. And anyone who isn't a dinosaur journalist in the mainstream media goes, what N-word videos? It's very hard to find a bona fide racist video. I spent about an hour today trying to find a bona fide ISIS recruitment video on YouTube. There's a lot of people talking about ISIS recruitment videos, but very few. Hi, I am a Muslim extremist. I want to kill the infidels. I found one that just had that, and it had like 83 views. He was not, and there was no Coca-Cola ads on it. The whole thing is a myth. And Paul Joseph Watson's contention is that this myth is meant to shut down the conservative right.
This is true. This issue has nothing to do with advertisers running ads on ISIS and KKK videos. It doesn't even make sense. So how did this actually happen? Listen to the CEO of a prominent advertising technology company on how this issue actually came about.
The brand safety. And now the brand safety story. So that's interesting in of itself. Why is that a big deal now when it's been an issue sort of with us all along that's, if not solved, largely mitigated in fairness to Google.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, my perspective is a little bit different on this. Mm-hmm. I see more the sort of real politic of this whole move, which is the advertisers, the marketers, the agencies have realized that, Google and Facebook have more power really than anybody in the ecosystem, by orders of magnitude. And what this brand safety thing is about in large part is a collective flexing of muscle from the buy side, if you like, to say, we need to send a signal that we're not just going to keep pouring money into these companies' coffers without more say-so in the product. And they tried to do this before. Google, if you won't let me run my Adobe Audience Manager to measure the impressions, then I'm going to stop buying from you if that's the policy you're going to take. And in which case, Google's like, okay. Let's see how long you can do that for. Mm-hmm. So who's going to blink first? So you've seen this sort of testing of the market, and I think what's notable here is not so much the brand safety things, but the sort of collective action of the buy side to sort of, I don't want to say boycott, but we have advertisers who are reallocating money out of Google, at least through our platform, into other sources. And I think what's really going on is people are trying to establish better bargaining parity in terms of having influence and better control over the rulers.
I think that's exactly right.
What he said was, Google and Facebook have enormous power in the advertising industry. If you think of these companies about how much power they have just in general, now think about how much power they have within that specific industry. Because they have such power, advertisers have never had any leverage to push back on these giant tech companies. When Facebook or Google change the rules, everyone in the industry can't do anything about it. They just have to take it. They can't stop spending money with them either, because that'll hurt their business. And the tech platforms have gotten away with giving advertisers the middle finger whenever they want, and nobody can do anything about it. But in comes the issue of brand safety, the carriage by which advertisers have hopped onto in order to exercise some much desired leverage over Facebook and Google. This has nothing to do with ISIS or KKK videos, but originally everything to do with advertisers trying to gain leverage over the big tech platforms. But in response to the whines about brand safety, which is a non-issue, the major tech platforms saw an opportunity to justify their lust for power and control. Complaints from advertisers about brand safety was the perfect justification for tech platforms to become the beholders of information, the screeners, the censorers of everything that we see. This is an industry so radical that executives and employees all over the world within these organizations must walk on eggshells in order not to be found out or be sentenced to the career gulag for their conservatism. Marketing, communications, public relations, the advertising industry is the most left-wing industry in the world, and this is important because the ad business is the chief culprit in the plot to censor conservatism out of the public view. But it gets worse. All the baloney about brand safety and censoring hate speech started with advertising, but hasn't stopped there. Now, in order to make sure conservatives aren't seen, read, or heard, other industries and corporations have jumped on board. And in my next video, I'll discuss how they actually do this, which is through economic terrorism.